I used to do everything right. I followed all the rules that I thought I was supposed to follow to lose weight. I tried to be more disciplined, but somehow it still didn't work. So I kept starting over and I kept searching for the perfect diet because I thought that I just have to be stricter or I need to find the perfect plan. But it wasn't that. I was actually making four mistakes that kept me from reaching my goal. And once I saw them, everything started to make sense. Why I kept jumping from one diet to another, thinking that this next one is going to be the one. Why I could stay on track all day, but then lose control at night. And why I felt like I was constantly failing, even though I put so much effort into this. So in this video, I'm going to show you four mistakes that stop me from losing weight. Because the chances are, if you feel frustrated and like nothing is working for you, maybe you are making the same ones without realizing it. And all four of them are equally important, so watch the video till the end. So the first mistake was that I thought that doing everything right would be enough. I was actually very consistent. When I decided to follow something, I followed it. And that's why I was so confused, because even though I was doing everything right, I followed the rules, something always felt off. Maybe I lost weight, but I didn't feel good because I had this black and white thinking that I had to follow someone else's plan 100% because they know better than I do. And if it didn't work for me, it was my fault because I didn't follow the diet perfectly, or that wasn't the right diet for me, right? So I just kept searching for the perfect diet that someone else created. So when I read about a new shiny diet, then I thought, this is it. This is going to work for me perfectly now. So the second mistake was that I actually focused on the type of the diet instead of how it worked for me. Because to be fair, I found things that worked. Like after my first pregnancy, I lost the weight following a lower carb, higher protein way of eating. And then after my second pregnancy, I lost the weight following a plant-based, high carb, low fat approach. And that was the confusing part, right? Because they both worked, but they made me feel different. With one of them, I had energy, but I felt so irritable and on edge. And eating low carb can do that to a lot of people. And with higher carbs, I felt calm, but I had to keep the fat really low. And that's not so good for hormones and for skin, right? And also, at some point, I followed some diet that resulted in the leanest body I ever had, but it completely didn't fit into my lifestyle. It was really difficult to follow. And that's when I started to actually see it. The problem wasn't finding a diet that works, because most diets work. The problem is that we only focus on what we are eating and not on how this affects us, how it affects our energy, our mood, our cravings, our lifestyle, our sleep, and whether you can actually stick to it without your whole life evolving around food, because we don't want that, right? So that's when I stopped searching for the perfect diet that someone else created. And I started to ask myself, what works for me long term? What can I do the rest of my life, not just for a few months? And the answer became much simpler than I expected. I just needed a few core habits that already worked for me, and then adjust them based on how my body responded. Because if you look at most diets, the core principles are the same. You eat more whole foods and less processed foods, you eat more mindfully, and you eat a little bit less overall. And that's why they work. So we don't need any fancy formulas or trying to follow someone else's rules that doesn't actually fit into our lifestyle or our preferences. We hate the food that we eat, right? or our metabolism. That's why I don't teach people to follow any specific diets anymore. I teach them how to find the best way of eating that fits their body and their life. So they don't have to keep starting over anymore. They can just learn how to do this for the rest of their lives and it will work. But even when you find something that works for you, there is another thing that can quietly keep pulling you off track. And that's mistake number 3. I made my cravings feel special and urgent. So at this point, I wasn't jumping from one diet to another. I found something that worked long term, and most of the time I was doing really well, except when my period came and all I could think was food. And every time I had those cravings, I thought that I shouldn't eat this, this is bad, I'm going to ruin my progress. And this only made it worse because now it wasn't just a simple craving, it was a test, right? Like I could either succeed or fail. It wasn't the craving that had power over me, but it was the meaning that I attached to it. The more I told myself that I can't have something, the more important it felt and the more urgent it became. And when I opened something like a chocolate bar or ice cream, just for a few bites or one bite, I automatically started to eat faster and more because I thought that I have to eat this now because tomorrow I will be good again, right? I won't eat this food again. I'm going to be good again tomorrow. So, of course, I would overeat because I turned a normal food into something special, rare, and emotional. If we tell a small child that you can't have something, they want it even more, right? We are still wired the same. If something is forbidden, we want it more, even if in normal circumstances we wouldn't want it at all. Have you noticed that? So, what changed everything was that I stopped treating cravings like a weakness or something, a problem that I need to fix. And I started to treat it as something that I'm allowed to have, but not in a just eat everything all the time way. It only meant that nothing was forbidden anymore. So if I really wanted something, I could have a normal portion of it. And because I knew that next time when I want it, I can have it again. I didn't have this thought that I have to eat it all now because tomorrow I can't eat it. Because I could eat it anytime, it became less special, less alluring, and it was just not so interesting anymore. And for some of these foods, I even noticed that I don't even like them that much. I just wanted them because I couldn't have them. So if you feel like certain foods have this weird power over you, like you can't, if you start eating, you can't stop. Maybe it's not about the food at all, it's about the restriction and therefore making that food seem more interesting and special. That's driving the overeating. But even when your cravings calm down, there is one more thing that can override everything. And this is mistake number 4. I was using food to escape how I felt without even realizing it. So at this point, I wasn't jumping from one diet to the other. The cravings didn't control me anymore, but there were still those moments, like after a long day, or when I felt overwhelmed, or frustrated, or angry, or stressed. And then I just found myself in the kitchen, not hungry, just there, searching for something, wanting just a little bit, but then it wouldn't be a little bit. And the weirdest part was that I knew what I was doing. I knew I wasn't hungry. I knew this wouldn't make me feel better, only temporarily, maybe. But in that moment, it felt like I needed it. I needed that food. And for a long time, I thought that it meant that I had no discipline. Well, it wasn't that. I was using food for something it was never meant to do. I was eating because I didn't know how to be with what I was feeling: stress, anger, or even just mental exhaustion. And food became the fastest way to switch off, to numb, or to look forward to something. And when food has that role in your life, no diet can fix that, and no amount of willpower can fix that. Because you are not solving a food problem, you are solving an emotional problem with food. And what actually changed this for me is learning how to handle those moments without food. Learn to how to actually process what I was feeling without avoiding it, and staying with the discomfort without having to numb it. And I didn't do it perfectly. I still don't. Because even normal eaters eat for emotional reasons sometimes. But the main thing is that this is not your main tool to feel better. This isn't the only option anymore, right? And that's when everything started to feel calmer, eating became easier, and I didn't feel like I was fighting myself all the time anymore. And this is a really big part of what I do with my clients too. I'm helping them outgrow that pattern so they don't need food to cope anymore. Because once you fix this one piece, everything becomes easier. Looking back, it's kind of crazy. I thought I had a weight loss problem, but I didn't. I was chasing the perfect diet without looking at what actually worked for me. I was turning cravings into something powerful, and I was using food to handle things that I didn't know how to handle. And of course, I felt like nothing worked. The solution wasn't a better diet that someone else created. The solution was actually starting to think differently. I learned how to listen to my body's needs and how to take away power from food, and learning how to cope with feelings without needing food to numb them or escape from them. And that's the real shift from fighting food every day to not having to fight at all. And that's the work I actually do with my clients now inside my programs, helping them make this shift in a way that actually lasts. And if you want to work on this, I put together a free podcast series showing you the deeper layers of this change that people usually never address. I put the link into the description. And if you still think that, but I need to track calories, otherwise I will be completely out of control, watch this video next.